everyone. Welcome to the first module of this course. In this module, we are going to cover algorithmic analyses as well as computational complexity. We'll talk about the different mechanisms that you can use to evaluate the performance of particular algorithms or pieces of code. But before we get started, let's discuss what's an algorithm. So an algorithm is a step-by-step procedure that allows you to solve a particular problem. When describing algorithms, there are a few properties that are exhibited by all algorithms. The first one is input, which is all algorithms take in a particular input, which could be one or more. The second property is output, which is the algorithms typically have one or more output. And the last property is the property of unambiguousness or definitiveness, which is whenever we provide a certain input to an algorithm, it provides a definite, non-ambiguous output. What I mean by that is, let's say if I have some input I that is provided to a particular algorithm, whenever I run that particular algorithm or run a piece of code, it should provide me the same output if I have that same input that's provided to the algorithm. So we have been using this term interchangeably, which is algorithm and code, but there are some certain distinctions between these two terms. I want to discuss these distinctions before we proceed to our performance evaluation. So when talking about algorithms as well as programs, there are a few distinctions between these two constructs based on some certain parameters. The first parameter that we are going to discuss is the parameter of focus, which is what is the focus of algorithm, while what is the focus of a code or a program. So the focus of designing algorithms is to design the solution to a particular program, which is we basically focus on designing. While the focus of code or program is to actually implement a solution or implement the design that we have created. The second parameter that we are going to discuss is the form, which is how these algorithms or programs are written. So as you all know that whenever we write algorithms, we do not need to necessarily write program language specific constructs. We can use something called pseudocode, which your TAs are going to cover in the next discussion, which is how to write pseudocode. And when we are actually implementing or writing code or program, this behavior, the form that takes place, is language specific. The next parameter that we are going to discuss is the dependence on hardware or OS. So we know that all algorithms typically are independent of hardware or OS. Like whenever we are designing an algorithm, we do not care about which machine it's going to be run onto. While when we talk about like program or code, we need to care about which is the machine, like how much processors does it have, or what is the frequency of the processor, or how many operations does the machine execute in a particular state. But all of these, we do not care in an algorithm, but we do care when we are actually implementing it on a system. The next one is cognitive state. So when I talk about cognitive state, I'm not talking about the cognitive state of the machine, but I'm rather talking about the cognitive state of the programmer. And what I mean by that is whenever we are designing an algorithm, we as programmers or human beings, we basically think. While when we are coding or programming, we actually do stuff rather than thinking about the things. The last parameter that we are going to discuss, which differentiates algorithms and programs, is correctness or performance evaluation. So whenever we describe algorithms, we compare the correctness or performance by actually doing mathematical proofs or by doing some sort of a formal rigorous analysis. While when we are talking about code or program, we basically write test cases or we use some testing framework to test our particular code. So this is one of the core distinctions between algorithm and program. And once again, like I wanted to state that the core difference between algorithm is we are basically thinking about how to solve a problem versus actually how we do a particular problem in implementation or when we are writing a code to a particular program.